I'm Chip Dolphy, and I'm going to be on the Black Shopping channel with Chinwe Joni to discuss my book, The African American Historical News Journal. It's 64 pages of the actual newspaper articles from 1778 up through the modern day civil rights movement of 1956. The book is full of stories about entrepreneurs, inventors, politicians, statesmen, war heroes, women and men who made a difference in the founding of this country by their heroic acts, their acts of business acumen, their inventions that changed the course of history. There are stories about men who did heroic deeds when asked not to. Please, don't bother. We're going to be okay. No thanks. I'm fighting for my country. These are stories about Americans of African descent that changed the course of history for this country. The stories aren't widely known, but they are told as they were written that day. We digitized the actual newspaper articles from 1778, and we moved them up through the modern day civil rights movement of 1956. These books contain the actual newspaper articles. Not one thing's been changed. The font's the same, the tone's the same. The bias is the bias of the writer at the time of these African American owned newspapers, as I said, from 1778 up through the modern day civil rights movement of 1956. It's a compilation of several different newspapers, mostly African American owned, from the time. Nothing's been changed. They're not politically correct. The ads are the day of the time that they were written. Nothing's been changed. There is no editorialization for a bias other than the day it was written. Every book, each 64-page book with the bibliographies in the back of the softcover version, contains these stories. There are stories in there, everybody knows about Madam C.J. Walker, the first African-American millionairess. But let me tell you something. Put that in the context of today, of how she died at the turn of the last century with a fortune of $2 million. That's after selling all of her products, after paying all of her obligations, after raising her child, after having a home. She left $2 million to her estate, of which a majority of it went to universities and some went to her daughter. That's one of the stories. What about the African American inventors? What about the Real McCoy? Did you know that's an African American man? That's not a guy in West Virginia fighting a guy named Hatfield. That's an African American man who was so prolific in his inventions that changed the course of history. It's in that book. It's in my book, The African American Historical News Journal. I can speak like this. I don't want you to think that it's not with humility, but the fact is, I didn't write the articles. I just put them together. The articles were written by the people of the time, so I can be effusive. I can speak about the amazing amount of material contained in these books because I didn't write them. Nobody alive wrote the articles. For the most part, a few people are still alive from 1956, but nobody else. They were written by the people at the time. So when you buy that book, and when you go to Black Shopping Channel and you see what Chinwe and I are trying to do with this book, not only are we going to show you the book, we're going to read articles to you. Every week we're going to be on there talking about a different part of history that you're going to want to get a hold of that book, and you're going to want to sit down with your family on Sunday afternoons when you're having dinner and read articles out of that book to your family and friends. You're going to want to share this because I'm telling you right now, it's an epiphanal moment for you when you see this book. The reason I'm able to do it, the reason I feel so strongly about it is when you read these articles, the information that's not typically widely known, not often taught in schools, is something that's going to be a revelation to you. Now, we do sell in schools and we sell in museums and libraries around the country. I'm actually in the Smithsonian. I'm humbled and flattered by that. So we are in the school districts, but everybody needs to have this book, black or white, and take it and fill in that piece of history that's not widely known, not widely taught, not widely spoken about in the school districts until now. We're getting out there as quickly as we can. But you know what? You want to get a hold of the books. It's the African American Historical News Journal, and it's a compilation of the actual newspaper articles from 1778 up through the modern day civil rights movement in 1956.
Wow. Okay. Give us those dates again, because that's incredible.
1778 up through the modern day civil rights movement, 1956.
Now here at the Black Shopping Channel, we're so connected to our audience, and I see them at home saying, wow, oh my gosh, I can't believe that. How did you chronicle all that information?
The articles, which I want to reiterate that these are the actual newspaper articles that we digitized. They were in a box in a garage in Boston. They were deteriorating, as happens with time and moisture, and you get the air in there. And so we took these articles, and when you start to go through the book and you realize that the only way to share it was to digitize them, because otherwise nobody could see them. As soon as you touch them, they disintegrated.
Wow.
So we took them, laid them out, digitize them and then compile them and put them in a book that we could share with others and that teachers could share with students and families can share with each other, and that we were able to get that information out. It's a tree falling in the forest if nobody can hear it, if you can't get this information out to everybody's hand.
And you know what made you have the type of, first of all, fortitude to do that? Because it's a lot of information to sift through and to piece it together the way you did, because it's so well done. We've been looking at it literally in the studio all afternoon, blown away. Our CEO, Mr. Cleveland Gary, happened to be in the studio today, which is a rare honor, by the way. And he was blown away because some of the stories, in fact, that you were sharing with us, one in particular was his favorite. You have all this in this amazing book. How did you do this?
Well, you know, you start to read it and you realize, I mean, I know that the focus is on African American history. In fact, our motto is magnifying the African American impact on U.S. history. When you start to see the articles and you start to understand there's a part of history that not that many people know, and it's certainly not in school, you feel like if you don't do it, you're remiss. You know what I'm saying? It's
Absolutely.
like, if I knew that this information existed and didn't put it in a situation that could be widely disseminated, then that's a disservice to Americans. It's a piece of history that we're trying to fill that gap on information, like I said, that's not widely known, not typically taught, but it's so interesting because it's American history. African American history is American history first.
Absolutely.
And it's about what African Americans did that changed the course of history in a positive way. And there's 64 pages of that, of the actual newspaper articles, 3-4 newspapers at a time, of Black-owned newspapers or newspapers that were owned at the time, but they all carry stories that pertain specifically to the contributions in a positive manner that African Americans had to the founding of our country.
Now, Chip, let me ask you this. Are these the original articles we're looking at? Nothing's been touched, nothing doctored or taken out, altered in any way?
No, that's a good point. Nothing's been changed. So when you read the article, it's the font that it was printed in. It was the wording, and we talked about this before.
Yeah.
They're not politically correct, all of them. There's a lot of stuff in there that's very controversial, but we didn't change a single thing, even the weather reports, because we didn't want to change the
weather
tone.
reports are included.
Yeah, in some of the
That's
articles, sure.
amazing.
But the thing is this: if you change one thing, you've altered history.
Yes.
These are the articles. When the author of this article sat down and wrote this article back in 1778, when he talks about the Rhode Island slaves fought the redcoats, that's what he was feeling at the time. That's what the thoughts and the feeling and the attitude of the people at the time and that author. So there's nothing been changed. Like I said, the font, the context, nothing's been changed. Even sometimes the words aren't words that you would recognize today, or they're in a different context today.
Yes.
But nothing's been changed because when you read them, we want you to, it's such a tactile thing. You want to take this book and hold it in your hand and read those articles the way they were written at the time, so you feel like you want to step into that day and time.
Absolutely. So it does not take away from the authenticity of the actual article, because as you said, which I found to be amazing, the weather's also included, because some of us who do, I like meteorology, believe it or not. So it's interesting also to see the weather patterns back there, especially they talk about, you know, a lot of the warming trends that have been going on globally, to see how we've changed too with even the weather. But I like the fact that you said all-inclusive, it's American history, because so many times people like to separate the two. And really, it's all together, wouldn't you say? It's a part of it, a huge part.
We believe that fully, right? And that's why, you know, when I first saw the channel on television, you know, I called right away.
Oh,
and I said, you know what, I think that this is something that needs to be brought to the largest audience. And, you know, I know that you guys are in 65 million homes, and that says something, because now we've opened the door to homes that may not have known about us before. I'm in school districts, museums, and libraries across the country. We're also in the Smithsonian. The Smithsonian adopted this book and put that into their collection.
Are you serious?
Big deal, and we're very proud of that.
It's a huge deal,
It is a huge
Chip.
deal. And
That's amazing.
I'm humbled by that. But
well, that's what we love here at the Black Shopping Channel, because, you know, we've had a lot of celebrities, if you've seen, because you were in the studio today admiring Mia and Vivica Fox, who came by as well. But yeah, we are so excited about this new venue here to bring information like this and entertainment as well. But this is amazing. You have really done something phenomenal here, and we're so proud to have it featured here on the Black Shopping Channel.
And one reason I can speak effusively about this, and I didn't write a single article. So I can speak
Absolutely.
about this, and I can be a proponent, and I can speak so candidly and so full of enthusiasm because I didn't write one of these things. So it's not with a sense of hubris that I speak about these because
Exactly.
these are the articles written at the time. So I'm only saying to you and to everybody out there, you need to have this book. It's the most amazing collection of primary source material in the country. And I can say that because I didn't write the articles, somebody else wrote them. We just put them together. And the idea of getting them into as many hands. And by the way, I don't want you to think that this is an ethnocentric history book. It's not. I mean, the stories in here about war heroes and politicians and statesmen and inventors and entrepreneurs and men and women who fought for this country long before my ancestors got here is American history that everybody should know about. Everybody should know about. And that's why when we're adopted into school districts and when we're into museums and libraries, we're not just in African American museums or libraries. We're not just in African American, if you will, school districts. I mean, the Smithsonian
Yeah.
is not a race or gender.
Once you
specific
say
museum.
Smithsonian, there it is. You can't get more recognition than that, and it shows that you really do have a very valid product, something that is researched well and put together well. I mean, it's the Smithsonian.
Yeah,
Come on.
I know, and we're
That's
very proud the
amazing.
Smithsonian has us in it. We're
Yes.
very, very proud. And what I'd like to do today is share some stories that are in here.
Okay.
And talk to you about some of the things because I think that, I know that you have some familiarity with the book now, but I think if we get the viewers to see what we have here and get them interested in, and you're going to want to understand why we're so
Absolutely.
excited about being able to bring this to people.
Absolutely. But you know what the exciting part is? Here on the Black Shopping Channel, even though we always inform you about what's going on, we also, of course, drive this all the time. We're all about good deals, good prices, good deals here on the Shopping Channel. And this is an amazing price point for this particular item. We just started talking about how amazing it was that you have this book together, but for $20,
$20 for the soft copy, $35 for the hard copy. It's 64 pages. The
that's
hard
unbelievable.
copy. Yeah,
$20 gets you this book. $20, and it's like I said, so much information, but for $20, you cannot beat the price. For $20, this amazing book, and you also have a hard copy version, but as you said, this is a paperback version, very nice, and I like it because it looks a little like, a little tattered, a little weathered, like you have a piece of history. Not only do you have it, of course, with the journals, but it feels like it. It gives the vibe, the feel of it. I like that about this.
It's very tactile. In the book that you and I are using right now to discuss things, I keep with me because it reminds me when I talk to people and I show them how this book feels in their hands. Now, of course, viewers will get a book brand new, wrapped in plastic,
Oh, of course.
pristine
Absolutely.
condition. But this book that I'm showing you here is one that I use to talk about because it
Exactly.
reminds me of how important it is to get this information out. And one of the first stories I'd like to share with you is from 1862.
Before you do that, though, you know what I want to do, Chip?
What's that?
I want to drive this price point.
Okay.
Because I have to do that, honey.
All right.
It's all about selling, you know that. So, of course, $20 gets you this book, and we want them to know, of course, here at home, those SKU numbers are on your screen, so make sure you jot those down so that we can keep track of that product information. The SKU information will be available for you on the screen, and you can call this number. You know the number, right? 1-800-826-1497. That number again, 1-800-826-1497 is the telephone number to call. And also, you can visit us on the web. You know how it goes, www.blackshoppingchannel.com. And this information, again, you will see, because every person here who is a member here at the Black Shopping Channel, like Chip, I love him, he's so smart, has an e-store with us here at the Black Shopping Channel. So you can check out his store and see all the information by logging on to www.blackshoppingchannel.com. That information is listed there for you 24 hours a day. And of course, our operators are standing by as well. $20, folks, and $35 for the hard copy. And look at this information. Chip, I got to hear about this amazing story because I know we're going to be blown away. We're all sitting on the edge of our seats for you to tell us.
In Beaufort, South Carolina, June of 1862, an African-American man, Mr. Smalls, Robert Smalls, took a Confederate gunboat at the port there at Hilton Head and delivered it to the Union Army, which they used against the Confederates to hold that harbor. Now, the story is amazing on so many levels, but let's just dissect that so we can get the impact of that. First off, the boat's 147 feet.
Yes.
That's a big boat by today's standards with all the electronics. But imagine back in 1862, it's a 147-foot boat. Mr. Smalls had no access to sailing school. He had no access to the ability to pilot that boat, except for what he learned on his own as working, with other boat owners. So he takes this boat 147 feet long, realizing that, of course, if he's caught, it's certain death. He gets caught, they don't tell him to put the boat back. They kill him, they kill his family. But he was, remember, fighting for the America he knew before the situation arose between the Union Army and the Confederate Army. So he takes the boat, he delivers it to the Union Army. They're amazed. He never had any communication. They didn't ask him for it. They didn't.
And that shows, and this is what I like about the story, because it shows the intelligence that he had. Because a lot of times, especially back in those times, they would always imply that people of color, African Americans, were not intelligent, were not cultured, did not have the wherewithal. How did this man do this? Obviously he was intelligent. He was a brilliant man with no education. You weren't allowed any formal education or to read, and he was able to do what he did, and that's amazing.
Well, now it gets better.
It gets better.
So he takes the boat, he delivers it to an amazed Union Army. Understand, they were not expecting, no expectation whatsoever. He delivers the boat. He wanted nothing in return.
Wow.
Here's the boat, I'm doing my duty. This is what I want to do. Here you go. Well, I want to turn to a page. This story is found on page 19 of the book.
Okay.
Now I want to take you over to 1864, 2 years later. So remember, Mr. Smalls has delivered the boat now with no expectation, at a great risk to himself and to his family. 2 years later, in 1864, I want to share this with you. A Union Army general gave the boat to Mr. Smalls, which would have been nice. 147 feet, it's his boat. Here you go. Thanks so much. But wait a minute. In addition to giving him the boat, they gave him a contract for $2,000 per month.
Wait a minute. Did you say $2,000 per month?
In 1864.
In 1864.
Correct. To deliver troops back and forth for the Union Army.
Some families today in our country live off of that.
Come on. I mean, and he had no expectation. You understand?
That's incredible.
I mean, he gets the boat. Fine. Thank you very much. The second thing is, Mr. Smalls, no, thank you. Here's a contract for $2,000 a month. We want you to transport troops. From a man who had no expectation initially, now has a 147-foot boat and a contract for $2,000 a month. Now that's in 1864. Remember, at the turn of the century, Henry Ford started the $5 a day wage into the assembly line at his plants. So think about this. In 1864, Mr. Smalls got a contract for $2,000 a month to deliver troops. That is an amazing story. It's one of my favorite stories.
That's incredible.
In here. Yeah,
and
absolutely.
You know what's amazing too, and I really like that you shared this story, because a lot of people talk about, Miss Madam C.J. Walker and her big invention, of course, relaxers and hair care, and but look at what was accomplished. And a lot of people always hone in on that particular story as a first sign of success, but that's a huge success in 1864, making $2,000 plus a month. Back then, a man of color.
It's an enormous amount of money
Incredible.
back then, and it extrapolates into several $100,000 annually today.
Exactly.
That's just one of the stories. That's just one of the stories in here. I mean, when you're talking about covering a period from 1778 up through 1956, that's one of the stories.
And you can't put a price on that. And this is what makes this so amazing, that you have all this information. It's well done. I'm telling you. I looked through this book thoroughly, and as you can see, Chip is very educated, and he spent a lot of time and did a lot of research, and a lot of effort is put into this. And let me tell you, everything's laid out so well. It's wonderfully done. You can either choose the hard copy, or you see the paperback here. And as he said, it's going to be wrapped in plastic for you at home, and at a price point of $20. You cannot beat that. $20. You need to call now, because these are going to sell out. I can just see people at home now, and that's what we were talking about, even bridging the generation gap. If you have a grandparent and you're wondering, oh, I want to spend more time with my grandmother or my grandfather, and we don't really have things to talk about because, our technology is so far to the left as it was then, this is a nice tool that you can bring into your homes and discuss it and share history. And your grandparents will probably be amazed and say, you know what? I didn't know that, or I might have been there and I've seen that. I was a witness to that, and it'll bridge the gap. So I really love that. And $20, $20. You need to call now because I know, Chip, these are going to sell really fast at a price point of $20. And if you want something in the hard copy, he has that for you. He has everything covered. $35 gets you the hard copy. $20 gets you the paperback version, and all you got to do is call this number. So what are you waiting for? Operators are standing by for you. That number to call, 1-800-826-1497. That number again, 1-800-826-1497 is that number to call. And I said to you, oh my gosh, producers are telling me in the studio, you've already sold 250 books already.
Well, that's
Yeah,
great. That's
that's a
250
start.
more families
Yeah.
that have this information that they can
Yeah.
share with their families.
Absolutely. 1-800-826-1497. You got the number, good. And make sure you write the SKU number down because that's how we're able to keep track of your orders at home. So make sure you write down those SKU numbers, and we are so excited to have him here today. Such a wealth of knowledge. $20, and they're selling like hotcakes. You've already sold another 100. Can you believe it? You're at $350 now. $20.
It's amazing, and every time a book is sold, that means to me
And I can see that you're excited.
that more people are getting this knowledge. And I'm going to ask you a question.
Absolutely.
Everybody knows the phrase, the real McCoy. You know that phrase.
Yes, I hear that all the time. We all do.
But you know the source of that.
I do because, my mother's a history teacher. And so she always gave us that background. So, she tells me so much, all those little gems, I couldn't remember. I told you it had something to do with an engine, right? That's all I kind of remembered.
Yeah, that's one of it. But that's probably one of his most famous inventions. But
Okay.
let me put that into perspective too.
Please do.
The real McCoy is a part of the lexicon of our language, isn't it? I mean, everybody
is.
knows what that phrase is. Everybody says the real McCoy, the real McCoy. But do you really know the source? The source was an African-American man, Elijah McCoy. All right, you're talking about back in 1896. This gentleman was a very prolific inventor. He's a great thinker, and he saw something, he would disassemble it, put it back together, and it was better for that. Remember something now, in 1896, he didn't have a lot of resources, so prototypes weren't something he could go through 3, 4, 5, or 6. But this man, Elijah McCoy, who, by the way, changed the Industrial Revolution because one of his most profound inventions was the ability to lubricate an engine while it runs. That technology didn't exist. Would it eventually? Maybe, but it wasn't at that point in time. This man invented the process to lubricate an engine while it runs, so continuous. Before, think about it, it's analogous to getting off a ramp. You're on the highway, you're driving, you get off the ramp to get a bottle of water, this car's still going, you get back on, you never catch up. So think about the ability to lubricate an engine while it's running, change the course of the Industrial Revolution, 1896.
And then hence the term, the real McCoy.
Correct. Well, the real McCoy came about because, as often back then, somebody had an invention that maybe didn't have the means, black or white, particularly in the African-American community, somebody would appropriate that invention, recreate it, copy it, if you will, and then try to peddle it as the same one. So imagine back in 1896, people would take that invention, and it didn't matter who it was, General Motors, it didn't matter if it was a large company, they would take that invention, they would reassemble it over here and say, here it is. And so somebody would go into a shop and say, oh, is that Elijah McCoy's? No, but it's really, really close. It's very close. And they'd say, you know what? I appreciate that very much. I want the real McCoy.
You want the real McCoy.
And think about how in 1896, how that's become such a part of our language today without the advantages of the modern day dissemination of information through the media. So you've got a man who was so well respected and so well regarded and so well known that phrase that came about in 1896 is as popular today as it was back then by word
Chip,
of mouth.
That's amazing. You said this spawned in 1896.
Correct.
This term.
Yes.
The real McCoy.
Correct.
That's become the lexicon that it is today.
Yes.
From 1896.
Correct. So it's not some guy in West Virginia fighting some guy named Hatfield. This was a guy. Now remember, no mass media. Word of mouth. How many times does somebody have to say over and over again, I want the real McCoy? How disproportionately correct is your invention? How accurate, how well built that over and over and over again, you have to be the real McCoy. That speaks volumes, especially considering the way that, cars weren't around. How was information? Newspapers were passed around. This became part of the language And as I said, part of the lexicon by word of mouth. That's an amazing statement when you think about how it is, you know, today. How would that come about today? Well, it's amazing. And that's only one of the inventors.
And this is one of the things that's amazing to me too about this particular book that you're selling is this price point and how fast they're selling right now, because you wouldn't believe we've already sold another 200.
Well, that's flattering,
yes,
and it's wonderful.
They love it. And you know what? A lot of people, the feedback that we're getting here in the studio is their price point. They're saying, Chip, this is incredible. You're giving me something that's absolutely priceless for $20. $20. It's priceless. The holidays are coming up. A lot of people give their kids those video games and high-tech things to learn, and that's all fun and good. I mean, we all like to have fun. We all enjoy video games, but why not give the gift of knowledge? With the holidays coming up, grandparents, you know, fathers, mothers at home right now, thinking of ways that you can give your children a piece of history, some knowledge, and something you all can enjoy and do together. $20, you can't beat that, and it's so well done. This you will have to last you a lifetime, and it's something that you will talk about a lifetime. And a lot of people too, we were talking to, Chip, have dinner parties, get-togethers, socials, and they, you know, sometimes you play word games and play cards, but why not have a night that's dedicated to just taking a look at, not just like you said, it is African American history, but it's American history as well. Taking a look, educating yourselves, educating some friends and family, and at $20, Chip, unbelievable.
Well,
$20.
The great thing about hearing those sales numbers is, don't forget that, you know, we give 10% of the gross sale to organizations that help education, job creation, health, and well-being in the African American communities. And I'm actually having dinner with Mr. Gary tonight afterwards, and we're going to discuss about some of the give back programs that he has, and do these in conjunction. We already support those types of programs, but because of all the books bought on Black Shopping Channel, we're going to funnel those into some of the charities and organizations that Mr. Gary supports through his groups.
So by making a purchase also, you know, you are also supporting your community, because a lot of people are a lot of talk, and I've seen that, and I know you've seen that as well.
Yeah.
But then you have a lot of people in the community who give back. And Mr. Dolphy is definitely one of those people. And just like he says, he travels all over the country too, because he, of course, loves to share this information. And he meets a lot of people who give back to the community. And so he supports those efforts as well as we do here on the Black Shopping Channel. So I don't know what you're waiting for. I would call right now if I were you, and I know you probably are. Let me give you the number just in case you need it. It's 1-800-826-1497. That number again, 1-800-826-1497 is the number to call, and you know you can always visit us on the web at www.blackshoppingchannel.com. That information is also listed there for you. And you know we're streaming live on the web, which is really nice, at blackshoppingchannel.tv. We really like that, and we welcome all our friends and family watching us on Channel 88. In fact, you saw us there, right?
I did, as a matter of fact. I saw you down in South Carolina, and I called right away because I thought this would be a great opportunity to get the book into as many hands as possible. Aside from the school districts and the library and museums that we talked about, it's important for families to have this book. And that's the thing that, you know, we designed the book and the book's cover, the paperback version, so that when the school districts buy them, the kids take them home at the end of the year. That price point works for them. It's not a very expensive item. The beauty of it is that many school districts use them. We're Title I, Title II, media buy, and stimulus money. So for any school teachers out there, call the 800 number, go on the website, and we have the ability to get books to you. That money that we donate will go back to your school. In addition to the money that we donate, off the top, school districts have special pricing, so give us a call on that. You know what's been really interesting as well for me is that we've been using the book for fundraisers for churches and organizations and for family reunions, and the idea about getting the book into the hands and that people are using it fundraising for their family reunions. They can bring the book, they're raising the money for those family reunions, but it's an interesting thing is they're selling the book, and the people from their families are taking the books out and selling them, but then they all end up at the family reunion with a copy of the book, and they share the information and help pay for them to get there.
And that's amazing. It's just amazing how those things work together. We're going to talk about some more, of course, from the book. We're going to talk about how you can get your copy if you don't already know, if you're just tuning in, where have you been? We're going to join, of course, Mr. Chip Dolphy here. He's going to be back and tell us another amazing story. Because, Mr. Dolphy, you have so many stories. This book is amazing. You don't want to move because this next story is one of my favorites. And that's coming up next as the Black Shopping Channel continues. Welcome back to the Black Shopping Channel. I'm your host, Chinwe Joni, and Mr. Chip Dolphy is still here joining us. And I'm telling you, if you have missed this show today, where have you been? Some amazing information. You know we always sell here on the Black Shopping Channel, but we try to entertain or inform you, or a little of both, and that's what we're doing here today. Thank you so much for being here. This has been incredible. Now, Mr. Dolphy, before we broke, you said that you were going to tell us this amazing story. Just give us a little quick, brief story, because we have something else we want to sell and show everybody at home.
Well, we're going to, one of the things that we talked about before was how many times in the course of history African Americans fought for this country while being asked to stand on the sidelines, and they refused. They said, no, this is my country. I'm fighting for my country, whether it was against the British or the French, the Spanish. It didn't make any difference. African Americans picked up arms against Americans' enemies because it was their country they were fighting for.
Absolutely.
And we'll talk more about that in later episodes, but I wanted to just tell you that there's pages and pages and pages of stories about African American war heroes contained in the 64 pages of this book.
And give us that name of the book one more time.
It's the African American Historical News Journal. It's $20, and it's the most significant, in my humble opinion, and because I didn't write that, remember, of primary source information about African American history that exists today.
Because as you said, all the articles have not been touched at all, altered. It's authentic articles from that time period, from when to when again?
From 1778 up to the modern day civil rights movement in 1956.
And I love how you always say the modern day civil rights movement, because you said the civil rights movement started way before.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, speaking of, you talked about the Rhode Island slaves. Now you have something that we can also wear. See, we love that. That got our attention, right? Tell us about the t-shirts.
We took pages out of the book. So if you have a page of the book like this, or one of the pages here, we put that on the back of a t-shirt. So we have 3 t-shirts that we have out right now. The Rhode Island slaves fight the redcoats. That's from the 1778. We have a shirt about the Mr. Smalls from Beaufort, South Carolina. And we have a t-shirt about the 42,000 member walk back in 1956.
Yeah.
So you can buy those. Those t-shirts are 100% cotton.
Oh, good.
They're heavyweight. They're $20. They're expensive shirts to print. So I apologize that shirt price may be high, but I'm going to tell you right now.
No worries. I'm telling you, for the quality, because, you know, we were here in the studio. We always have everything so nice here. And, you know, they were being pressed, and we could see how sturdy, how nice, good quality that these t-shirts are. So for $20, honey, you're giving them away.
Well, I appreciate you saying that.
Great deal, Chip.
But
Great
you know,
deal.
you walk around and we always envision it as you're standing in line and somebody behind you is reading a piece of history.
Absolutely.
And that's why we
You're
came up with the
passing
shirts.
information.
You're passing the information on to the person behind you.
And then it's a conversation piece.
I think it is.
Well, when you say so, like, where'd you get the shirt? And hey, what an interesting fact there. The t-shirt, you can see it on your screen right now. You see the price point for $20. That SKU number is up for you. Make sure you write that down and call this number. Place that order. 1-800-826-1497 is the number to call. 1-800-826-1497 is the number to call, or you can visit us on the web at www.blackshoppingchannel.com. $20 are going to sell really fast, and don't worry, if you're still holding for the paperback version of the book, please stand by and do that as well. $20 price point. So you've done a lot of $20 deals with us today on the Black Shopping Channel. We love to give our viewers deals, and you've done that today.
And the same thing applies with the shirts. $20, 10% of the proceeds of the gross price of the shirts goes to the same organizations that we talked about earlier. So that's why we try to keep the price where everybody get their hands on it, and also allowing us to give some money back.
Absolutely. So there's 3 versions of the t-shirt that you can choose, right? So
Correct.
Tell us about those quickly.
That's the Rhode Island Slaves Fight the Redcoats from 1778. Mr. Smalls taking the boat in Beaufort, South Carolina. That's in 1862. And of course, the 42,000 walk, the boycott, which was 99% effective in 1956. So each one of those shirts will be is a page out of the book, digitized and printed on the back of a very high heavyweight cotton shirt. We have them in medium, large, XL, and 2XL.
Oh, good.
If you need a 3XL, go ahead and let us know. You're going to have to give us about 7 days on those.
Then it'll be a special order,
That'll
but
be
you
a
can
special
fill
order.
it.
Absolutely, we
Wonderful.
fill it. The others we have in the warehouse, we get them out to you right away. But any size that you want, give me a little bit of latitude on time, because we'll have to, one-off those sizes if you need a bigger size than the 2XLs.
Okay, Mr. Dolphy, so let's go through this one more time with the t-shirt. So we have one from 1778.
Correct.
And that features which
The
particular?
Rhode Island Slaves Fight the Redcoats, and that is from February 14th, 1778.
Wow. And then the next one we have from 1862.
That's Mr. Smalls, who took the Confederate gunboat that we talked about earlier, delivered it to the Union. That article is on the back of a t-shirt.
And it made in a whopping over $2,000 a month to do so, right?
Correct.
That's
Absolutely.
unheard of back then, and amazing. And then the last t-shirt we have featured from 1956.
Is the 42,000 walk, the boycott that was completely 100% effective.
Okay, amazing. You know what? It's been an absolute pleasure to have you in the studio today.
It's been my pleasure. Thanks so much for allowing me the opportunity to talk about the book.
Thank you for sharing the knowledge. You've enriched so many lives today. You just don't know.
Wow.
Mine, our CEO, Mr. Cleveland Gary's in the studio today, which is great to have him here. And he's just amazed. And of course, he was telling you how much he loved the story about Mr. Smalls.
Yes.
So
That's both of our favorite stories.
exactly. So this has been an amazing time. Make sure you hang on now. A lot of people are still calling in. You've sold so much today. So that's a good thing. 1-800-826-1497 is the number to call. You can always visit us on the web at www.blackshoppingchannel.com. Mr. Chip Dolphy, an absolute pleasure.
My pleasure.
Thank
Thanks a
you
lot.
so much. And my mother, Miss Kajisa Goyakle, who's a school teacher, will be watching, and we'll be looking
There's
for
a book coming to you.
Yes, she's going to love that book, a history teacher. So again, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.